As of April 2022, there were roughly 5 billion internet users worldwide, amounting to about 63% of the world's population. However, 92% of internet access happens through mobile phones, meaning the majority probably never go any deeper than surface-level social media apps like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. For most people on the internet, even Reddit remains squarely outside of their browsing comfort zone. The further you drift away from these highly frequented hubs, the less appropriately moderated the web environments become. And with the absence of moderation and a low bar of entry, these sites become populated almost exclusively by people with essentially non-existent sensibilities and interests that range from niche to downright deranged. With the internet becoming more and more sanitized as time goes on, we tend to overlook the places where it has maintained its Wild West status, as they're usually associated with toxicity and xenophobic attitudes towards who they consider normies. But if we're to breach their self-imposed isolation, we can find the most glaring examples of why this isolation might be for the best. With certain online spaces presenting themselves as welcoming any and all kinds of antisocial, dysfunctional, and otherwise weird people, it's no surprise that they also end up taking in those who have crossed the line from being regular outcasts to actual criminals. Case in point, today, we'll be going over the criminals associated with the most antagonized forum on the internet. 4chan creeps and 2D women go together like peanut butter and jelly. After all, when you can't persuade any real three-dimensional woman to be your waifu, who could blame you for resorting to anime girls instead? Unlike 3D bimbos, cartoon characters won't reject you for being the quote-unquote nice guy with zero redeeming qualities that you are. But some people take their preoccupation with imaginary women a tad bit further than others. Take the case of Thaddeus McMichael, or MadThad0890. Back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, he was active on 4chan, Facebook, and YouTube. He started off his channel, which now has 6,000 subscribers, with videos of him singing anime openings. It's cringy, sure, but it seems like the innocent pastime of an anime fan, and he continued on like that for a while, uploading dozens of videos of him singing or discussing current events.
Alright guys, MadThad0890 here once again, and big fucking news came out yesterday. They're remaking Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver for the Game Boy Color, or regular Game Boy, for the DS. They're remaking this shit.
A few years later, though, his fixation on one anime in particular would make itself manifest: School Days. Or, more specifically, the character Kotonoha Katsura, a 15 to 16-year-old schoolgirl in the anime. His most popular videos, having hundreds of thousands of views, are the ones where he displays his love for this character, such as Happy Birthday to My Waifu, where he sings her happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Kotonoha! Happy birthday to you!
On his Facebook account, he would go even further in showing just how enamored he was, by posing in pictures with his waifu, and popping her the question. He went as far as making a Facebook account for her, so he could make status updates of being in a relationship with her and engaged to her. He also responded to himself through the account he made for her, pretending to be her. Take this interaction they had. My waifu, we look so kawaii together. Thad. I know. I was so tired that day. Thanks for cuddling up with me. Baka, it's not like I wanted to cuddle with you or anything. Stop being tsundere. For all of these shenanigans, and the fact that he regularly posted under the name Kotonoha's Husbando on the anime and sports boards, he was somewhat of a phenomenon on 4chan. The pinnacle of his obsession, though, that we know of, is probably when he had sex with his Kotonoha body pillow and posted a video of it on Tumblr. A post on the anime reality reads, "Here it is. Probably the worst thing produced by the cumulative efforts of humanity. A video of a sexual deviant, Thaddeus Michael, having sex with an anime pillow that depicts what I can only assume is his imaginary waifu. Click here for the horror." It goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, just to be sure, that this video is incredibly not safe for work and features full nudity and utterly creepy and disturbing behavior from Thad. Your eyes might be physically unscathed, but your psyche and soul will be damaged, possibly beyond repair. I hope that thing has been industrially dry cleaned before he put it to any other use. But if you can believe it, things only get weirder from here. He started making some posts on social media that were suspect, to say the least. He posted a picture of a little girl holding a cheese pizza with the caption, "Who ordered the CP?" A not so subtle reference to, well, you know. If we go back to his YouTube channel, we can see he was making some similarly concerning statements as early as 2010 in a video titled "Tokyo's Virtual Child Bill, Funimation Dance and the Vampire Bund Edits."
So Funimation came out with this this news article, not news, but press release saying that it's some vampire anime they licensed and they're gonna edit like a scene or a couple scenes out that show like basically animated child pornography, if that's a fucking term. And this is fucking terrible because that's fucking censorship, and this is fucking terrible. I mean, you know, I'm not a big fan of real child pornography, like, cause it's kind of, I don't know, I'm not that interested in real people like that, you know. But drawn, animated child pornography, I'm okay with, cause it's drawn. Cause real people aren't that sexy to me when it comes to that kind of shit. Look, people drawing Dawn and Misty and May naked and shit, and that new girl from Heart Gold Soul Silver, I don't know what her name is, but people draw them naked. You know, Dawn got the blue and white panties and shit, striped ones. That's fucking sexy. But they're all like 10, 13. You know what I'm saying? People draw. You gonna ban people from drawing fan art of that shit? What's gonna happen to all the people that make rape fantasies and brother and sister sex scenes and shit like that? Sex mangas. You know, I like that kind of shit. You know, wish I had a little sister so I could have sex with. I got a brother. He's a faggot, so I can't really have sex with him.
Well, that was a ride. Let's recap. Thad starts off by talking about the anime Dance in the Vampire Bund, and how upset he is that Funimation decided to censor it when the anime is full of nudity scenes of a 9-year-old girl. What the fuck is wrong with these people? I mean, to be fair, in the plot she's actually a centuries-old vampire. I wish I were joking, but the point still stands. He goes on to say he's a-okay with drawn CP, but in a way that implies he watches it himself, by mentioning that he's not into real people. He valiantly claims that it's a tragedy that people won't be able to draw sexual fan art of 10 to 13-year-old characters anymore. But the real cherry on top is that he laments about what's going to happen to all of the rape and incest material that he so greatly enjoys, even going as far as to say he wishes he had a sister so that he could have sex with her. He complained on Tumblr when the site took down something he posted for having sexual content involving minors. I thought Tumblr was the fun place on the internet. I can post porn and pretty much anything I want to here, but this ain't gonna fly if they're gonna kick me off just because I reblogged somebody's pics of cute Asian children. It's not like it was CP or anything. This site isn't as fun as I thought it was going to be. Is there any place on the internet where a pedo can be himself without being hated on? Maybe I should start up my own pedophile social networking site where there will be no mods and my kind of people can finally express themselves freely without being ridiculed. You guys keep a lookout for network.com, coming soon. But Thad didn't get into truly hot water until he made a series of incriminating Facebook posts that resulted in his house being raided by the FBI. The affidavit from the investigation provides details. On June 24th, 2011, the Detroit, Michigan division of the FBI was contacted concerning an individual on the social networking site Facebook who was actively discussing CP and methods for downloading CP from the internet. The Facebook user ID provided was MadThad08. It goes on to detail what exactly was said that was egregious enough to get the FBI on his case. In response to the statement, "Stop downloading all that CP, Thad, you're just asking for it," being posted by another user on McMichael's Facebook page, McMichael wrote, "Well, tell 7-year-old girls to stop sucking Baba Booey. So sexy."
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
McMichael claimed this post was a joke. That feel after you fap to CP. It's a feel like no other. It's like you're floating on cloud 9 or something. You need to try to fap to some CP at least once before you die, because there is no other feel like it. McMichael claimed this post was a joke. All CP isn't rape. Sometimes the kids want it. Most of the time they need it. McMichael also claimed that this post was a joke. So just how many times is he gonna use that excuse? I can fap to the same CP video for weeks because it's so fucking hot. McMichael claimed this post was a joke. Who's the girl that wanted to see the retard guy get beat off by a nurse? Well, here it is if you still want to see it. Link to the video. For disabled people, sexuality is necessary. Also, it's CP. It's a nurse jacking off a 10-year-old boy. Not just any 10-year-old boy, a retard 10-year-old boy. McMichael claims to have originally come across the video on 4chan.org in the B conversation thread. McMichael guessed the age of the male in the video to be 8 to 12 years old. McMichael claims this post was made as a joke. Yeah, I carry around an 8GB hard drive full of CP. McMichael's response to being asked about this post was, "I plead the fifth." Lol. Well, at least he used something other than, "It was just a prank, bro. I just got the greatest idea. What if I adopt a little girl? I'm sure she wouldn't mind becoming my sex slave if I take her away from the orphanage. Why didn't I think of this before? It's foil-proof. Now I just gotta locate the Michigan adoption agency tomorrow, and my plan will be put into motion. Soon, I'll have my very own lolly, and she'll have nowhere to run. Bwah, ha 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 ha. Bwah, ha 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 ha. McMichael claimed that this post was a joke, and he couldn't possibly actually adopt a little girl anyway. Why did he have to write about his plan to acquire a child sex slave like he was Dr. Doofenshmirtz trying to blow up the tri-state area? Unsurprisingly, all of these oddly specific and not remotely comedic comments Thad made that he claimed were just jokes were very real. He did indeed have an 8GB flash drive with heaps of illegal material on it, as the records show. During his interview, numerous images and videos of real children engaged in sexually explicit conduct were located in the following directories. So he named his CP folder Don't Click. A genius move, I must say. One would have assumed that the FBI would come across that folder and just not click it. As of this date, we found approximately 300 to 350 images and videos of CP among McMichael's electronic media seized during the execution of the Southfield search warrant. Material found in the directory /things/don't-click/CP/CP included images of t-shirt designs featuring images of CP. The images also showed an internet address of shirtmockup.com. CP t-shirts? Why? For what purpose? Where could you even wear such a thing? Since Thad was a known element on 4chan, some people followed the ensuing court case in all of its hilarity. Hey guys, I wanted to keep you up to date on Thad. He called 2 FBI agents and asked them to come to his house and kill him. He won't take his meds and is threatening to kill himself. The judge put him back in jail again. Meanwhile, he also alienated his private attorney so much that she withdrew from the case. Thad now has a new private attorney, and his public defender withdrew for similar reasons. As Thad was a frequent figure here on /SP, I thought you might want to know. Thad ended up posting bail, but his conditions were that he had to wear an ankle bracelet and not use the internet. 3 days before his bail ended, he tweeted this: "I'm back. Missed my waifu. Stupid feds didn't even find my backup hard drive. Hashtag YOLO, hashtag swag, hashtag waifu." Predictably, his bail was revoked. In the end, he served a prison sentence of 5 years, from July 2013 to October 2018. This whole ordeal begs the question, what lengths won't men go to for their waifus? The world may never know. All that time in the slammer must not have fazed him, because shortly after he got out, he was back to posting on YouTube as well as 4chan, under the same name of Kotanoha's Husbando. Sup, A? I've been in prison for the last decade and need anime to catch up on. I'm in the middle of Hunter x Hunter and loving it. Any other recommendations from 2012 to now? Somebody replies, wait a minute, I just realized something. The girl in your name is a character from School Days. Is that really you or just a troll? And he then posts a picture of himself in a MAGA hat saying, yup, and my eye is still lazy. As for YouTube, he came back with this video.
If you can't beat them, you gotta join them.
He followed it up with an 8-hour stream in which his apparent fan base welcomed his return in the comment section. He is still posting literally to this day with updates like Gonorrhea and Pride Month, where he details how he became gay while in prison and goes on Grindr now, and him being relieved about his AIDS test being negative. He does, unfortunately, have gonorrhea though. What felonies will Mad Thad commit next? What new STDs will he acquire? Will he catch the elusive monkeypox? Only time will tell. You may be under the impression that the e-girl phenomenon is a relatively new one. Maybe a figure like Belle Delphine and her legion of orbiters comes to mind. Or maybe you think of Twitch streamers that men simp for, like Pokimane. But this internet dynamic dates back much further. All the way back to 4chan's inception, as a matter of fact. I guess that shouldn't come as any surprise, considering the type of people who frequent 4chan, lonely neckbeards, didn't start being desperate for women in just the past couple of years. They've always been that way, in fact. In its early days, Anons would develop parasocial relationships and even obsessions with a series of different girls, who either posted images of themselves to the boards or were posted there by someone else. Women are relatively far and few in between in 4chan, and so the mere presence of any girl whatsoever is enough to instantly send gaggles of basement-dwelling weeaboos into a frenzy. These weren't your typical e-girl and simp dynamics. They were far more extreme than even the ones we see today on social media platforms. These girls, often underage, typically went to 4chan because they wanted attention and saw the board as a means of getting it from touch-starved incels. What they don't account for is that they always get more than they bargained for, as lurkers would not just give them nicknames and discuss them incessantly, but stalked, threatened, and even doxed them in some cases to satisfy their one-sided infatuation with their platonic waifu. The first of these incidents was Cracky-chan, a 15-year-old girl who posted a series of images of herself on the image board B over the course of a couple of weeks. The board was so obsessed with talking about her that 4chan's admin made it so that any instance of the word cracky would be changed to another random word ending in CKY. She inevitably laid low due to all the unwanted attention and creepy behavior coming from Anons, and her fanboys only got all the more desperate. I'll never forgive you assholes for chasing that adorable girl away. You are all horrible, disgusting people, and I hope there's a God and he makes you suffer in hell. I'll never again be able to fall asleep without thinking of her warm, cute, smiling face. You have ruined my life completely. All I do all day now is think stuff up to post about her on Troll Talk to get people to talk with me about her, because that's all that's left. I am going mad, and I hope you're happy with what you've done. If I ever see someone mention 4chan in real life, I'll fucking beat him to death with my belt. Eventually, I should be able to kill all those responsible for this. Yeah, pretty angry to say the least. But this whole ordeal was child's play compared to some other of the Chan girl cases. In 2006, a girl who came to be dubbed Lolly Chan was just 12 years old when she started posting pictures of herself on B. The images she posted to the board were innocent enough, such as one with "Sup B" written on her hand like Cracky Chan. Predictably, the board became infatuated with her. She was interviewed by Jezebel much later on and details the experience. After Lolly had garnered Chan status, she says, the attention became addictive. She had her own board on Chan Chan, a sub-forum that gathered pictures of cam girls. It's now called Chan Sluts, where she gained a large fan base. She'd also chat with hundreds of men per day via AIM. Even after she was caught by her parents, she posted a picture of herself wearing her school insignia, and a woman who frequented 4chan called her school and alerted the principal of her online behavior. She continued to go on the board covertly, uploading photos when her family was away. Surprising not that many people, it proved extremely easy to source a consumer base of pedophiles from B, though it should be mentioned that at least some people tried to band together to get her board shut down. There's an image board called Lolly-chan, which features an alleged 13-year-old girl from South Florida who goes by the online handle of the same name, Lolly-chan. On this board, she posts pictures of herself, clothed so far. Pedophiles, sexual deviants, and all kinds of unsavory people flock there to interact with her. I don't know if she's a cop, or if it's an older brother doing this, or who knows. But I do know that it's disturbing. It's gotten a lot tamer recently because she claims she's waiting for a new camera and hasn't been taking new photos, but it used to be ridiculous. Guys were posting pictures of their cocks, begging for her contact information, and generally acting a fool. I fear when it gets popular again, it can all blow up. She thinks she's smarter than the average kid, and her pedo teasing is all a gag. She loves getting attention from much older guys with all sorts of ideas in their heads. Her fans, as she refers to them. I wonder how many parole violations are going on there. I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not sure what's legal, but this must end immediately. This opinion clearly was not the dominant one at the time though, not on 4chan at least, because the show went on. All this attention she was getting was obviously coming from the wrong sorts of people, predators. After all, who else would be so preoccupied with such a young girl? As a result, they repeatedly tried, and eventually succeeded, at exploiting her. When she was 14, Lolly had her first online boyfriend. He was 30. She dumped him after 8 months, after seeing a photo of him and realizing he was a fat, nerdy guy, as Conti puts it. Her second online boyfriend, who went by George Peard, claims to be her age, but definitely seems like he was an older man with pedophilic fantasies. He kept asking for photos of her in pigtails, he would tell her about how he fantasized about his niece, etc. After months of dating, George convinced Lolly to send him naked pictures. He promptly posted them on 4chan. People began posting her personal information online. Someone uploaded a picture of her house with the caption, "Here's where I'm gonna kidnap her." She would eventually start modeling on a camgirl website to pay off $31,000 worth of medical bills from being committed to a psych ward after these experiences, taking on the name of Dolores Hayes, the titular character of the book Lolita, a novel about a middle-aged man and his sexual exploitation of a 12-year-old girl. Despite all of this, she hopes to eventually leave her internet presence and go to college to study illustration. Let's admit it, everyone likes to participate in a little trolling from time to time, whether it's baiting people, spreading misinformation, or if you're really bold, saying the gamer word.
Jeez, oh my god, what the f—
But everyone has different ways of showing their mischievous side, and for some, their idea of trolling is having a child pornography collection. Don't believe me? Take the case of Grant Lindsay Thiel, an Australian man who was apparently an avid member of the Pokemon Go community while it was still alive and well. This hardcore gamer admitted to CP charges after a coworker found out about his animated CP collection and called the cops. But rest assured, he wasn't up to anything weird, and was actually surprised to find out possessing such materials was illegal. He didn't download CP to do anything depraved with it, he was just using it to stir the pot, if you will, on 4chan. It was just to get people mad and start trouble. I gotta applaud this guy for thinking outside of the box. Who would have thought that people freak out when you show them child porn? Gotta add that one to my trolling arsenal for when I want to bait someone. Unfortunately for him, the court did not see it the same way, as Thiel had to register as a sex offender after pleading pleading guilty. And rightfully so, obviously. Back in 2010, something happened that could not possibly be more characteristic of 4chan culture. A 20-year-old college student in Michigan both threatened to commit a school shooting and was caught in possession of child pornography, although it's not as clear-cut as that summary would make it seem. It all started when he posted on B, announcing his plans to go on a school shooting spree on the campus of Wayne State University with an AK-47. In the post, he referred to the notorious Columbine and Virginia Tech shootings, saying he would get a higher kill count than the 32 who were murdered at Virginia Tech in 2007. He also said he would use a webcam to stream the shooting on Stickam, an old live streaming website which has since been shut down, saying, "Be sure to tune in." 2 people who saw the threat actually reported it, and the FBI was easily able to get a hold of his IP, subsequently raiding his home. He admitted to making the threats but said that he didn't mean them, and he also copped to having over 20 images of CP on his computer, but as a part of a plea deal, those charges were dropped. Unsurprisingly, when his web history was analyzed, it was found that he had researched other mass shootings beforehand. What you may be initially surprised by is that, according to the Associated Press, more than 30 friends and family members were in court to support him, including his former principal at Fordson High School in Dearborn, where he completed 19 college credits and received a prestigious leadership award in 2009. A Reddit AMA eventually popped up of someone indirectly claiming to be Ali Saad, though it's somewhat unclear if it actually is him or isn't. The post reads, "I am a 20-year-old Arab American. I posted a joke on 4chan and got arrested by the feds. Ask me anything. I lurked on 4chan for a while and decided one day it would be funny to troll B. Oh boy, was I mistaken. I made a few shock jokes about school shootings and applied them to my university. 2 days later, I got woken up to my home being raided by the FBI and 10 strapped officers around my bed. Some people were able to figure out his identity off those details alone. Did you also get charged with possession of CP? Just wondering because I read an article recently about a guy who joked about a school shooting on B and got raided by the feds, who then found CP on his computer, and I think he was an Arab American. Anyway, I feel sorry for you, but at the same time, why, man? Why? I've been a 4chan poster since I was 14, and I always knew never to do anything like that. Did you think no one would care? Or did you just not know at the time how easy it is for law enforcement to track you down? How bad was the CP that you were charged for? How long are you a sex offender for? What punishment did you get? How come you're allowed on the internet so soon after being charged with possession? OP responded, "The child porn charge was dropped because after they mined my computer's memory, the feds found the pictures were never actually opened, and that they were accidentally downloaded in a bulk file off of 4chan. Like I said, I lurked for a while, and then thought it would be funny. I also had to learn the hard way how little anonymity there actually is on the internet." If there's 2 things that simply don't go together, it's children and the internet. Just on the surface, kids on TikTok are already exposed to a plethora of content that they should definitely not be seeing. There was also a big problem on YouTube, which resulted in the creation of YouTube Kids, which, while it was at least an attempt at correcting the problem, it didn't exactly solve it. However, what happens when kids are exposed to almost completely unmoderated web activity, such as on 4chan? Well, exactly what you think would happen. For starters, we have the classic case of Jesse Slaughter. Jesse's story begins with a post on Sticky Drama, a crowdsourced gossip blog centered around the emo scene. Because this site hasn't been properly updated since the dawn of Web 2.0, we only have access to a cache archive of the post, which reads, "Blood on the Dance Floor lead singer Davi Vanity is at it again. He was apparently having a friends with benefits type of relationship with self-proclaimed scene queen Jessie Slaughter, who is only 11. Sticky's note, her MySpace states her age as 15 years old. I found this pic of the two at the May 2nd concert in Orlando. Though the picture isn't visible, the link corresponds to Jessie Slaughter Facebook.jpg, and a comment elucidates that this is likely a picture of Jessie with Davi Vanity, which might be this picture." The post continues, "I have talked to her about it, and all she had to say was, GTFO, Davi and I don't exist, I'm just a fan. But I have also talked to other people who say that they did fuck last summer when she was 10. I cannot believe that Davi has sunk to this level. I don't know whether this rumor is true, but if it is, he's disgusting. And I know for a fact right now they barely talk. I lurked her Twitter and Facebook and YouTube a little bit, and she is annoying. If Davi were a pedophile, why would he pick her? Other than the fact she's a slut. She's a lolcow fail at life, and so is he. Just look at her MySpace. Cupcakes? Really? Of all things to put on your layout, she puts rainbow cupcakes? They make me sick. And oh wow, she has Davi Vanity as her hero. Fail at life much? But she is sick and so is he. Avoid both of them at all costs. Due to the misspellings and the kind of infantile phrasing used in this post, and given that the blog was crowdsourced, the majority of the comments were picking up on it and accusing it of being a self-post, meaning they thought Jessie herself was trying to get attention by making up a story about how Davi Vanity, real name Jesus David Torres, vocalist of the emo band Blood on the Dance Floor, was a pedophile. This is just a post to brag about having a pic with a shitty internet celebrity. Fuck off. She doesn't look 11. I'm also sure she posted this herself. I have never heard of her. And plus, 15 or not, shouldn't be hooking up with random people at that age, or hooking up with anyone. Gross. She must have posted this. I've never heard of her. That's one washed up looking 11-year-old. It must suck to look at least 5 years older than your actual age. It only gets worse over time. After a few comments of just this, Jessie decided to chime in. What the fuck? This has gone way too far. Me and him are only friends, Jesus fucking Christ. And Sticky, I am 11 and Davi does actually know me, and by the way, what Davi does behind closed doors is his problem, and I did not post it. I swear on my brother's graves. So what the fuck? The peoples who posted this are the actual ones who fail at life. Regardless of whether the OP was indeed a self-post or not, this sounded disturbing, knowing that it was coming from an 11-year-old who had actually met Davi in real life. Further posts coming after hers reaffirmed that she was responsible for the original post. But once again, everything made the situation sound even more suspicious. Okay. First of all, Jessica Leonhardt is one of my enemies. She does this shit on purpose. This all started when I introduced Davi, which is my friend, to her. She started posting bullshit and saying she fucked him. Me and Davi go way back. He and I both know dating under 18 is illegal. Jessie is just one of these obsessed bitches who make shit up about the idol to get publicity. Get a life. Oh, and by the fucking way, I'm the one who took her to the May 2nd concert for her to meet him. I was there. This is bullshit. I have 2 pictures with him, and no one says shit. She posted this herself. Bella, aren't you 11 too? Why would Davi hang out with a 5th grader? So, a friend, or at least someone who used to be a friend of Jessie's, who is also 11, comes to the defense of Davi saying, and I quote, they go way back. Again, all of this is very dubious since they're coming from little emo kids. But then again, the pictures are real, meaning they did meet with Davi, so it should at least be reason for concern, especially since many other comments corroborated the story. 4 other close friends of mine have all slept with him, and at the time, none of them were a day older than 16, the youngest being 13, and he knows this too. He preys on underage girls because he knows they are super easy and will fuck him just because he's in a band. I mean, if he was just a normal guy on the street, no self-respecting girl in her right mind would fuck a guy that wears lip gloss and Hello Kitty. Davi is a disgusting pedophile, and he belongs in jail for a long time. Is there a way we can tip him off to the police anonymously? I've been wanting to do this for a while now. Davi is a pedo, if this is true or not. His band members have witnessed him have sex with a 15-year-old. Davi is a pedo. He fucked one of my friends when she was 14, before he was in Blood on the Dance Floor, when he was just some random MySpace creep who did hair, Lamau. One commenter even went as far as providing images that seemed to contain proof of Davi messaging underage fans, but these pictures haven't been archived and are now lost to time. Given the place where this was posted and the insular topic, there were no signs that this would ever make it out of niche scene discussions. However, one commenter linked a thread on the 4chan random board, B, that had been made about Jessie. To put it mildly, this is the beginning of the end. At this point, Jessie posted a video addressing the people making fun of her in particularly inflammatory ways, which only stoked the hornet's nest. The comments on the Sticky page erupted and people outright attacking her, which, though bad on its own, was nothing compared to what was to come.
Hey YouTube, it's Jessie Slaughter here, and this is to all you fucking haters, okay? Guess what? You guys are bitches, you know what? You don't faze me. I'm just doing this just so you can tell. I read the comments, I read the messages, I reply to them, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. And if you can't realize that and stop hating, then you know what? I'll pop a Glock in your mouth and make a brain slushy. Okay? Cause you hater bitches, you're just jealous of me.
Hell hath no fury like 4chan scorn, and as the people on B have no heart or soul to speak of, her name, home address, and phone number were all doxed. She was promptly flooded with prank calls, along with people calling the cops in her area and saying she was self-harming, or claiming she was receiving prostitutes at her house. Her YouTube account was hacked, and people started mass searching for Jessie Slaughter given PCP by her father in order to manipulate the Google Trends mechanism into inadvertently spreading this rumor by suggesting it whenever people typed in Jessie Slaughter. It was at this point that this iconic video was posted, eventually amassing millions of views, giving life to the phrases, "you done goofed," "consequences will never be the same," and "I've called the cyber police," which were endlessly spoofed and became a meme in the early 2010s.
Okay, you guys, this is Jessie Slaughter here, and
You
I
know
just
what?
wanted to say that you guys have ruined my life.
I'm gonna tell you right now.
This is from her father. You bunch of lying, no good punks. And I know who it's coming from because I back traced it. And I know who's emailing and who's doing it. And you've been reported to the cyber police and the state police. So you better write one more thing or screw with my computer again. You'll be arrested. End of conversation from her father.
You're right, fucking gonna come and beat her ass.
And if you come near my daughter, guess what? Consequences will never be the same. You lying bunch of pricks.
The harassment campaign against Jessie reached critical mass, and the mainstream media, namely MSNBC, CBS, and ABC News, joined into her parents' stupid attempt to fight it off instead of just letting it die off on its own. Now, of course, none of this is Jessie's fault. She was an 11-year-old girl who deserved nothing of what happened to her. But her parents and the TV shows that covered the situation did nothing but pour gasoline on the already raging fire, as they antagonized the hackers and trolls of 4chan in vain. By July 20th, YouTube started deleting and suspending any YouTube activity related to Jessie.
Florida police are now investigating a case of extreme bullying online. It all began after an 11-year-old girl posted videos on YouTube. Her family says they sparked a nightmare of pranks and death threats. Police are now looking into what they say could amount to a cyber stalking case. Andrea Canning spoke with the family in a GMA exclusive.
And on the 21st, her mom was interviewed, which casts an interesting light on the ordeal. Here's an excerpt. Interviewer: is it true that your daughter was taken into protective police custody? Jessie's mother: yes. On Friday afternoon around 2:45 p.m., another deputy and a DCF officer showed up at my door. The DCF agent was saying my daughter was making all these videos online. I never saw any videos and I didn't want to turn on the computer. I wanted to leave it alone. But they were hammering my daughter. They didn't talk to her, they were talking at her. They were blaming her, saying, "You did this." I haven't watched the videos, and I don't want my daughter back online. After all that, DCF took Jess on Friday and put her in protective custody at a center. She came back yesterday. Though seemingly well-intentioned, at least in this interview, the fact that she hadn't gotten wind of the videos or Jessie's claims that she had been molested, even after the extreme amount of attention the situation had gotten, is at the very least telling. Especially since, as we'll come to see, Jessie did not stop having access to the internet whatsoever. Because of the unarchivable nature of a lot of this information, only parts of these exchanges have been preserved. But it seems that merely days after this whole episode, she was back on multiple chatting websites, where, later on, a video was captured of her father berating and slapping her while her friends laughed. According to Encyclopedia Dramatica, reliable source, I know, Jessie made an account on another chatting website, Zat, called Blood on the Dance Floor Girl 13, where she reiterated her claims about Dobby and added that he'd taken pictures of her and continued to stalk and message her long after. However, it didn't take long until Zat Moderation started deleting her accounts and chat rooms. A few days later, she was featured in a slot on CNN, though this too has not been archived. Meanwhile, Gawker continued to cover the situation as an opportunity to antagonize 4chan, though their reporting on claims, such as that Jessie was receiving death threats, was deemed false by Florida's Sheriff's Department, who were investigating something else: possible nude photos of Jessie being distributed online. This was ignored and largely forgotten. What is almost otherworldly is that, throughout this entire media circus, despite the excessive attention directed towards anonymous B posters, no one actually took the time to consider what kicked off the Jessie Slaughter episode: her evidently dysfunctional family, who consistently failed to supervise her activity on the internet, and her claims about Dobby. For starters, a year after Jessie's peak in popularity, her father was arrested for child abuse, after a neighbor of theirs was supposedly accosted by Jessie with blood running from her nose and face swollen. Her father, who was charged with felony child abuse and promptly paid his $5,000 bond, accused her, a 7th grader, of wearing theatrical blood, even after officers verified that she had cuts inside her mouth consistent with physical abuse. A third party then posted a video of Jessie apologizing to Blood on the Dance Floor for having said the things she said about Dobby, and revealed that she had been put in foster care, and now, for the first time, was actually off of the internet, a stipulation her parents had failed to enforce up until that point.
It's Jessica Rose, aka Jessie Slaughter here, and I'm saying sorry for everything that I've done. I feel really bad about it now. I'm in foster care. I have been locked up in mental institutions. And just like you done Goose said, I do have to go to counseling now and everything, but it's not because of you. So, I'm really sorry for everything that I've done. I'm sorry for accusing you of rape and everything. I know that all that happened.
Later the same month, her father died of a heart attack. Concurrent with all of these catastrophic developments in Jesse's story, Davi and his bandmate, Jay, almost instantly took the opportunity to join the Bee harassment campaign, not only making a video spoofing Jesse's dad, but made a song about the incident where they call her, an 11-year-old girl at the time, saying she will cut herself. I wish I was lying right now. Despite its extremely well-deserved reputation for being a horrible cesspool of pure degeneracy and bullying, I have to make a caveat here to say that B was the only place to actually try to direct at least some of its efforts towards pointing out how the non-existent parenting Jessie was receiving was also the culprit of her suffering. Here is a message that Jessie's mom received from an anon. Your daughter distributed nude photographs of herself, went on a live cam chat and performed all sorts of sexual behaviors, made threatening YouTube videos towards people she didn't like / who disagreed with her / said mean things about her. Personally, I blame you and your obviously meth-addicted husband, and was 100% involved with the actions taken against your daughter. This wasn't cyberbullying. This was a group of proactive individuals trying to smack a little sense into a kid who's obviously getting zero discipline from you and your meth-addicted husband. If Jessie does not have her internet access revoked by you, then I will be forced to compile as much evidence against you and your husband as necessary, and will be contacting Child Protective Services to the effect of having your daughter removed from your household. Responsibility should not fall on anyone's shoulders besides your own. I am not responsible for what happens to your family, nor is anyone else who was involved in the actions taken against you. You are responsible. I do not want to see your daughter anywhere on the internet for the next 4 years. I do not want to open my favorite image board websites or photo bucket and stumble across disgusting photos of your daughter. You are responsible for your child's well-being. You failed to maintain said well-being, and now you've suffered the consequences, and they'll never, ever be the same.
Consequences will never be the same.
As it's been said many times before, but perhaps not enough, 4chan is not one single person. This isn't to say that they were collectively the good guys in the story, but that the mainstream media and journalism dropped the ball so badly with their careless coverage that they managed to be less informed than random anons on 4chan, the exact people they wanted to use Jesse's story to antagonize. Because of their gross mishandling, the only people who cared about Jesse's accusations at all were people on 4chan, who launched a campaign to also make the phrase "Davi Vanity rapes Jessie Slaughter" appear on search suggestions through Google Trends, which they dubbed Operation The Consequences, in an attempt to get Davi investigated for child molestation, an endeavor which earned them nothing but ridicule from the web news site Gawker. The only problem is, this time they were right. B is the proverbial broken clock. Every once in a while, they are right on the money. The years went by, and Jessie retained a certain amount of attention which, though significantly smaller in comparison, remained consistently negative as she kept an extremely public online presence and continued to display her clearly unwell state of mind to an audience of mostly hostile strangers and other equally damaged people. Eventually, Jessie began identifying as trans, taking on the name of Damien. Again, this netted a less than positive reaction from the channers who still followed her activity. Skype conversations with her from around this time revealed her current life situation. Jessie, I take meds for bipolar disorder. Now I'm taking the right amount, so it doesn't make me feel like a zombie, but I'm not having crazy mood swings either. Anon. And the mood swings weren't PMS? Jessie, they were full 3-month-long manic episodes, then like 6-month-long depressed episodes. Anon. You didn't strike me at all as manic depressive. What did you do when you were manic? Jessie, I'd say and do things without thinking, engage in reckless behavior. I was having a manic episode during the Jessie Slaughter drama. I'm on Lamictal. Do you have any new blogs or photo albums these days? Jessie, I don't post much personal stuff anymore. I keep my personal life off the internet because trolls always seem to find me. Anon, so does your mom know you're living with your boyfriend in Cali? What does she think of the whole situation? Jessie, she knows, and she doesn't really care, because she doesn't have to take care of me. Since she's into drugs and partying and all that, she really didn't want me around. Who their boyfriend was isn't certain, but other parts of the conversation bring it into question. Anon, do a lot of older guys find themselves attracted to you? Jessie, no, not really. I'm attracted to older men. Anon, would you ever consider stealing a guy from another woman? Jessie, nah, I respect relationships. #1 rule of the unwritten code of Lolitas everywhere. Do not go after taken men. This was in 2013, when she would have been 14, and on psychiatric medication. Other parts of the conversation indicate that she was sexually active. It strikes me as outlandish how many people simply ignored how obviously vulnerable this person was, how much stress they were under, and how they were blatantly victimized and then taken advantage of again and again. Not just by B, as media outlets would have us think, but by everyone. Meanwhile, Davi was never put under any significant amount of scrutiny, as 4chan's attempt to look into him became associated with the other stunts they were infamous for, and because of that, it was dismissed and overlooked by anyone with the necessary credibility or power to start any actual investigation. It was effectively filed as a cold case, doomed to languish in Chan obscurity for well over a decade. As it turns out, a story about how cyberbully boogeymen from the evil hacker website harassed a 10-year-old makes for saucier news than reporting on how a couple of parents failed at protecting their child, or how an infamous musician used their power and leverage to groom and molest that 10-year-old. It took another 10 years, and for Damien to jumpstart the conversation by contacting Chris Hansen for a YouTube interview about it, for people to start seriously considering the very obvious issue of her having admitted to having been molested by Davi well over a decade before.
He was very obsessed with, like, my mouth and putting his fingers in my mouth, and then, like, very soon wanted me to give him a blowjob. Like, pretty much immediately after meeting him.
You're 10 or 11 years old.
Yeah. I was a 10-year-old, and he fingered cake into my mouth. And then wanted me to blow him in a bathroom.
Within a year of Damien having gone on Hansen's show, as essentially victim zero of Davi Vanity, 21 other women came forward with allegations of having been sexually assaulted or raped by him when they were underage. I'll, again, not be going into details for obvious reasons, but it's worth noting that despite the FBI having launched an investigation, Davi and his bandmates, who certainly knew about what he did, have yet to face any legal consequences. Possibly the worst part about this is that it all could have been avoided. As early as 2007, before he was even a part of Blood on the Dance Floor and was just a hairstylist with a MySpace page, the police were already familiarized with Davi's crimes. A detective from the Crimes Against Children Squad of the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office called 22-year-old Jesus David Torres, the man known on MySpace as Davi the Elite Hair God. Romanowski informed Torres that he was aware of the sexual contact with a minor and that her mother would not ask the cops to arrest Torres if he cut off contact with her daughter. Torres claims he didn't know how young Farrell was, said he was sorry, and promised not to talk to her again. 2 years later, he was arrested for identical accusations, but again, not charged, though he hinted at having settled out of court with his victims, who he claimed were mentally ill. Bizarrely enough, even Jeffree Star is involved in this situation, who in 2012 publicly accused Davi of molesting teen girls on social media, which again was ignored. However, when the victim started speaking out, Jeffree stepped back from making any concrete statements on it, saying he wouldn't readdress things just because a little group of people can't get over it, as he told victims to set up a GoFundMe. The moral of the story is, no matter how degenerate 4chan can be, and don't get me wrong, it's really good at being degenerate, somehow it fails to outdo the rottenness that permeates everyday life. Even the institutions we would like to consider credible, like the news and the police, catastrophically failed Jesse Slaughter and the rest of Davi's victims, allowing him to continue his criminal behavior for decades. The only meaningful difference between them and the worst of B-tards is that, at least, the latter is transparent. In the end, this is just a fraction of the stories that have taken place on 4chan. The site's history is extensive and controversial, but with web archives like the Wayback Machine specifically excluding it from their own database, it can be hard to keep track of it all. In the end, while 4chan itself is often lauded as a cesspit of evil by many a content creator, the site itself is not inherently bad. It simply encourages some to be a little more themselves than the other platforms beholden to us. Sometimes that means being a little weird or quirky, sometimes it means making off-color jokes, and sometimes it means that who you are also just means that you belong in a federal prison. I've been Turkey Tom, thanks for watching, and until next time, leave me alone.
I've heard it 1,000 times before, and it's just not that far.